Active flame, boys.
Oh, that's a ripper.
Yeah.
Yeah, press the button on the very front there.
Oh, he's a cop. He knows how to use it.
Oh, no. Didn't work.
We're gonna sell him the door.
Same process.
I'll tell you after. Good evening and welcome to the City of Savage Planning Commission, Thursday, September 4th, 7 o'clock. Go ahead and call this meeting to order. Could I have roll call, please?
Brown,
Here.
Christensen, Item,
Here.
Nelson,
Here.
Thompson,
Here.
Wolf,
Here.
Zessman is excused.
All right, thank you very much. If we could all please stand, face the flag, and state the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Very good. Thank you very much. All right. Up next is to approve the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
All right. At this point, then, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as written.
So moved.
I have a motion by Item. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Nelson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Next up is the minutes. Approve the minutes from the July 24th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting. Did anybody see anything that looked out of order? I didn't personally see anything that looked incorrect. I have a motion to approve the minutes as printed from the July 24th Planning Commission meeting.
So moved.
I have a motion by Brown. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Item. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Up next is the public hearing. It's a recommendation to the City Council for a variance request from Zoning Code Section 152.408, Bluffland Overlay District Standards for property located at 13118 Ottawa Drive, Project 25-34. Jared, if you would, please.
All right. So we have a variance request for a property located at 13118 Ottawa Drive. It is part of the Pineview Estates subdivision. It is property, it's roughly about 0.84 acres and is zoned R1, low-density residential, and guided as low-density residential. The neighborhood in this subdivision is guided and zoned the same. Property is on the eastern bluff of the Credit River, and it is northeast of Hidden Valley Park. It's just a little background on the item here. So the village the village of Savage adopted the slope protections in September 6, 1974. Later, that's when the city became a city, January 1, 1974, due to a state act. In February 28th, that's when the subdivision was approved, of 1980, sorry. And of July 10th, 1985, the city approved the dwelling permit for the home at the property in question here. And then in 2001, on September 4th, the city updated the slope protections that we have today that I provided you in the memo. And then in July 10th, 1985, the city approved the new deck. So I just wanted to clarify that because I felt like there was just a lot of information in that background in the memo. So the applicant is the original owner of the home. They built the home, and through that process, they did get a permit. It was approved to modify all of these slopes and remove these trees to construct the home and to make the yard, essentially having what we have today. So in the pictures that the applicant provided, which was nice to have, you don't always get this, but you're looking, you can see that there's a lot of trees that were removed, and you can see that the soil does have a lot of sand in that, and that's where these slope protections are coming from, is to make sure that things aren't done to the slopes that will destabilize them and cause erosion. So here we have a site plan of the existing conditions that we have today, so that we do have a lot of slopes that on the property that are greater than 3 to 1. There's roughly about 31 trees that are identified that would be of significance. But we have a series of walls upholding. Some of them are pretty high. I've got some pictures here in your packet and in the presentation upcoming here that are holding a lot of this earth back. And so here are these walls that have been constructed right after the home was constructed. And so these are aging. They are starting to rot and they are starting to bow. So we have some concern for structural integrity, and we would, property owner in the city would like to make sure that these are able to be repaired. So it's been 40 years since the dwelling has been constructed and these retaining walls. And so there is stress and there's concern about premature failure of the footings of the deck that was constructed just over 20 years ago now. Or sorry, yes, just over 20 years ago now. So you can see in this picture, the footings are starting to shift, and that's going to cause the rest of the structure of the deck to fold. And that would definitely result if these retaining walls were to fail. Oop. So the request here is kind of a large one, but I don't think unreasonable. They're looking to have a variance from 152-408, which is the Bluffland standards. And so the standards here are, I'll summarize them quickly for you. Any slopes that are in excess of 33 1/3% or 3 to 1 essentially aren't to be modified. That includes removal of natural vegetation or alteration of contours. So, and then further on the Minnesota River, we require a 40-foot setback from the top of the bluff, and along the Credit River, we require a 25-foot setback from the top of bluff. And then planned unit developments may be used to alter these setbacks, but not get rid of them. And so the closest that that you can get through this provision is the structure of the height if it's over 3 stories. So it's a little convoluted, but it hasn't really been practiced. Subsection D hasn't really been practiced here in the city since it's been passed. Subsection E is focused more on sewage treatment systems. We don't really have any of those in the city today, but at the time when they put these in, or put this provision in, I'm sure that we had more than we do now. So, and then the big one here is no new discharge points. This is primarily a stormwater measure, so culverts or anything like that going down the hill, down these bluffs. So in this situation, specifically subsections A and C are what's impacting this property. Have any questions at all?
Mr. Chair, Jared, I did have a question on subsection G related to drainage. I did notice in one of the images that there was drain tile somewhere around that retaining wall. Is the applicant allowed to at least modify the current drainage to kind of discharge it away from the retaining wall?
So that's what we would be working with them. If a variance were approved, one of the conditions is that they would have to file for a building permit for these. And that would go through engineering as well. So we would try to work with that to mitigate that discharge point.
Sure.
So that it wouldn't cause any future erosion or anything like that, or sediment issues down the road.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Sir, we'll open up the public hearing, and then we'll have you come up, and you'll be able to address the commission, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you. Do we have any other further questions for Jared from the commission?
Mr. Chair, Jared, the 33 1/3%, what distance is that measured over?
It's not specified.
So it could be like a 33 1/3% slope for like 2 feet.
It could be, but that's not practical. Generally, what we practice is over a 50-foot distance.
Sure, because I think that's what the state statute says, but, so we don't have anything in the, because I was looking on Mintopo to see if there actually was a bluff on this property, and I couldn't find one. And so I'm wondering, do we have a definition for like, what does it say? Credit River Bluff, like do we say that this part of the Credit River Valley is a bluff, even though it might not technically have a 25% slope over 50 feet?
So we don't have a specific definition of that either in our code. But when you look at the current DNR shoreline ordinance, it's exactly how they define a bluff. So even if there is not, if there's a substantial distance between the water body and the bluff, they still count that as being a riverward bluff.
So that, I mean, isn't the DNR definition in the model shoreline ordinance 50, over a distance of 50 feet, measured from 25 feet from the ordinary high water mark, a slope greater than 25%?
There's this 33%.
33%.
Yeah, I
But
believe. Yeah, I believe it's
either way,
33.
it's not 25% or 33%.
That's what we had measured in our engineering team. So
Where is that though?
so we're looking at areas on the north side of the property here, and then based on the other topography that we had. I guess we interpolated that there was a disturbance of that 25, that greater than 33% slope on here.
So are you saying it's the blue lines?
What's that?
Where's the slope, I guess?
So this don't really have. So this would be the sloped area here that's in question.
From what number to what number? I can't see where you circled.
Sorry about that. Oh, of course that moves it. So we'd be looking at roughly the top of the slope would be about 8. We'd be looking at 830, but then we have with the wall there, That jumps up to 838 to the top of the wall. And that's definitely within 50 feet. So that, in that, roughly in, let's see if okay. I can either do one or the other. I can't do both. So that top of bluff would really be roughly in this, roughly in this area. Sorry, it's kind of hard to draw with the mouse. But yeah, due to with those walls, there's definitely, even over 50 feet, you go, that's over 33%. So.
What are you after?
Math for it. Is it at 33% over 50 feet? I got no other questions.
All right. Jared, I have a question for you. The height of the wall is, I recall previously dealing with a retaining wall in a previous community that anything above 4 feet has to be engineered. Is that in the building code or is that part of the city code?
I believe that is part of the state building code.
Okay, so this is obviously going to have to go to engineering.
Right, yes, yeah. So they, as part of the condition, they would need, we're not approving any designs here. We're simply, they're requesting just a variance from the code to allow for them to go back to their designer so that they have some assurances to be able to, that they're not going to put a bunch of money into it and get turned down.
But this will obviously be built correctly into today's standards.
Right. That's the intent, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, Jared, as part of this variance, is there a stipulation that whatever's disturbed has to remain with this specific area and shape, or is the applicant allowed to modify it in a way that suits their needs a little bit better this time around?
I think that there is going to have to be some modification to that. Some of these walls are quite tall. And I think that to make the engineering work and for slope stability's sake, I think that there's going to be some modifications. There may be some additional tiering involved. The applicant is part of their application, and it is in your packet. Their initial design shows some additional tiering with some bouldering, but we believe that there may be some additional engineering that's going to be needed for this particular project.
So they're not handcuffed in a way where they couldn't adjust any sort of
Right.
area.
I tried to, I mean, we can get into that too with the recommendation, but I tried to make it so that we weren't handcuffing anybody from fixing, from drafting a solution, that's going to make this work and for the long term.
Sure.
So.
Okay, thanks.
All right, anything further? All right, I guess at this time, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. At this time, we can invite the applicant to come up and address the commission. If you so choose, please state your name and address for the record, and you shall be heard.
David Hotvet, Hotvet, 13118 Ottawa Drive. So I guess the thing that I would like to do is answer some questions that I see that you guys have burning right now. We did this We applied for an excavation permit and then found out pretty much immediately afterwards that we weren't going to be doing anything for any reasonable amount of time. So we're basically back at ground zero, trying to figure out how to make what it is that we're trying to do work. We were surprised when we were asked to do this retroactive variance, because when we did the original building permits, we had lots of discussions with the officers of the city. Zero mention was made of any steep slope or any types of things like that. And in fact, it wasn't until after we did the excavation, we had the building inspector out. He was the one that suggested, because of the large amount of excavation we had, that it would be a great idea to put in a series of retaining walls just to keep the hill intact. And so that's what we did. We actually went off a set of plans that he did for us, and then turned around, then he approved them. So we've been trying to do what's right. We've been trying to keep the hill together. And I guess we have a lot more questions than I know you guys have any answers for. So we've done our best to keep the hill intact. I do want to make one correction. There were not a lot of trees that were removed. One tree was removed. And in fact, we had significant discussions with a lot of the excavators about, well, this tree is going to die, this one, this one, this one. And in that one picture that there's the 3 green arrows, those are the 3 trees that are still there right next to the wall. So what we're trying to do is put in a boulder landscaping wall. Yes, it needs to be engineered, but basically to mimic what's already been there. And that's all we're trying to do.
All right. Do we have any further questions for the applicant? Okay, very good. Thank you, sir. Does anybody else want to address the commission? Okay. Second time? I got to ask 3 times. Third time? All right, then I will go ahead and entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Item,
Second.
second by Nelson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Public hearing closed at 7:22. Okay, bring this back to Jared. All right, Commission. Do we have any further discussion on this before Jared pulls up the
Sure.
findings of fact?
Mr. Chairman, Jared, one question on if we go through, and adopt the staff recommendations, is that going to set this up for, presumably this, solution with the retaining wall, boulder wall is going to be, last significantly longer, hopefully, than the previous solution. But, if it does come, if there is, some sort of, natural event that causes a premature failure of the boulder wall or whatever, there's a failure, does this approval by the commission and by the city set them up so that, if this were to happen 10, 20, 40 years down the road, that they're not going to have to come back to us?
Yeah, this variance would be in perpetuity of the, as long as the property exists.
Great.
Okay, very good. All right. Anything further? Okay, did you want to pull up the findings of fact?
So with variances, we've got a couple items to run through pursuant to 152.033C. So variances shall only be granted when it is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the ordinance. So initially, the purpose and intent of the ordinance is to preserve the structural integrity of the bluffland, particularly when adjacent to water bodies. However, when the dwelling was permitted and constructed 40 years ago, the bluffland was altered. So today, there is a risk of further damage to the bluffland without further modification. The intent of the ordinance now, as it applies to this property, is to mitigate any damages from failure, which is the basis of this variance request. A variance shall only be granted when it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. So one of the many goals of the 2040 Savage Comprehensive Plan is to protect water quality of the surface waters throughout the city. Allowing the slope to be further altered through granting of this variance would mitigate further erosion of the bluffland, which would then result in further less sedimentation occurring in the Credit River. From land use perspective, the granting of this variance would not alter the future land use, and the property would remain as a single unit dwelling. So further, a variance may be granted when the applicant establishes that there is practical difficulties in complying with the zoning ordinance. So the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, not permitted by the zoning ordinance. So the slopes on this property, they've already been altered with the construction of the dwelling and the construction of the retaining walls. The use of this property would not be to the extent that it exists today. Furthermore, the alterations have been considered to be reasonable in that it is intended to stabilize the steep slope while creating some area for landscaping and gardening. Those uses in the backyard would not have been possible without these alterations. The plight of the planned owner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner. So the circumstances are not wholly created by the applicant. The building permit for the dwelling was issued in error due to the Bluffland Overland District standards not taken into account during the review of the application, which result in the current situation and this after-the-fact request. So the variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality. Economic considerations alone do not constitute practical difficulty. Practical difficulties include, but not limited to, inadequate access to direct sunlight for solar systems. The granting in this permit would not alter the essential character of the locality, as the dwelling was the first dwelling on the property, and it has been in place for 40 years. The loss of the home due to a collapse of the hill would alter the essential character of the locality, living on an unbuildable lot within an already established neighborhood. So,
Okay.
if there's any alterations or amendments you'd like to make,
Mr. Chairman, Jared, is this a unique situation, or are there other properties in this area that may be similar to this?
there are other properties throughout the city of Savage that are similar to this. And so we have to, when reviewing these variances, we have to look at each property on its own merit and its own request on its own merit. And we just have to keep in mind too that previous approvals or denials or anything like that don't have any effect on future variance requests, even if they're similar in nature.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Jared, what's the channel elevation for Credit River in this area?
That I would have to, I would have to go look that up.
I still don't see there's a bluff, I guess. That would probably be the first thing we should confirm, right? Before granting a variance from the bluff standards?
That's something that I can't do from this particular location right now. I would need a recess, I guess, if that's something that you want to do. So, I've got other. So.
What was that? I guess what
Oh, this is just a page from the packet, the last page that was provided. It was page 6 of their appendix, but it doesn't give me the information that I need to. Oh, you're saying, oh.
764?
So they're saying that 764 and drops down to 761 further to north, so.
I think that's what I saw on Scott County GIS today as well. The 2-foot contours, that it was 760, it was actually probably closer to 763. So it's got to rise 25 feet above that, right? In order for there to be a bluff?
So the bluff would be anything that's, and based on our code, the bluff would be anything that's 33%, or 33 and a third percent or
Over
less.
any distance that you want. So I mean, it's really like arbitrary. So if we're using like the state standards, it's got to be a slope, it's got to rise 25 feet above the ordinary high water mark, which 764 plus 25, what is that?
789.
789.
789.
Okay. And the distance from here to there, what do they have on there? I can't read that, it's too, do you know what that green number was you had there?
Roughly 430 feet if you take the slope from the ridge. There's a pretty strong ridge line on the northwest corner.
So the other thing to keep in mind too is that the code, the subsection A of the code doesn't specify any water body. It simply states slopes that are greater than 33 and 1/3% shall not be altered. So the setback is what would come into play here of that 25 feet. And as a cautionary effort, we as staff included subsection C as part of that as well, just to eliminate that, any confusion that the river may bring.
Okay, so are we saying it's a steep slope or are we saying it's a bluff? Because
Well, it's a
you
steep
just said
slope.
slope.
It's a steep slope, but the code calls it a bluffland overlay. So,
I got nothing else.
so right, if you take that longer distance and you average that out, that's correct, and that's why we don't use those longer distances traditionally when measuring for slope.
It's a 66-foot rise over 400-some feet, so that's not really a bluff.
I guess that's not what we're here to So when you measure over in this area here, I know it's hard to see on your screen, but we have a elevation of 836, and so we drop down to this area here to 822. So in this distance here is just over 20 feet. So in that section alone, we have over.
Didn't you say the city's policy is to use a distance of 50 feet, though?
We do, but I'm just taking these numbers here that we can see that I know you can read from there. And so even if we were to spread that over 50 feet, we still get to be over 33%. So that's the crux of the issue is subsection A.
I got nothing else, so.
Okay. All right. Do we have anything further?
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to say that as part of this application, I do applaud the applicants for doing their due diligence, identifying an issue, and going to the city to correct it in the legal manner. It's sometimes not always easy, but right, and I do applaud that. And I also see this being a life safety issue if this is not rectified, let alone this could further impact negatively the Credit River if it's not remediated. So I personally am in favor of this, and I don't see any reason why the applicant shouldn't be allowed to build their retaining wall.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Item. Do we have anything further from the commission?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the variance subject to the DRC conditions.
All right, we have a motion on the table from Commissioner Christensen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Item.
Mr. Chair, I would like to amend my motion to adopt the findings of fact as well.
Okay.
I'll second that too.
I have a new motion from Commissioner Christensen with the adoption of finding of fact, and a second by Commissioner Item again. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
We have one abstention from Commissioner Wolf. Motion carried. This will go to the council on what date?
September 15th.
September 15th. This will go to the city council for their review. Will this be a line item, or will they review this?
To be determined.
Okay, not sure yet. All right, thank you very much for coming in. Okay. Do you want to continue from there, Jared, or do you want to head back to your table? Heading back to the table. All right, next up is informational updates.
So the planning commission meeting that would be on September 18th, I don't think we will have any items, but we will be sending a cancellation out if we don't tomorrow. So just need to confirm that.
Okay.
So we do have a PUD amendment and a site plan approval that is in the works right now for Meadows Senior Living, second edition, 72 units of independent living for that building. We're still working through review comments and whatnot with the applicant yet, so, but that's on track. We'll probably see that sometime in October. So.
Okay, speaking of PUD amendments, did the one for the senior care facility behind it go through?
The one that Angie was working
Yeah.
on? Yes, that was approved.
Okay.
So.
All right, do you have anything else?
I don't really have anything else at this time, no.
Okay. If that's the case, then I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Item and a second by Christensen. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Meeting adjourned, 7:38. Thank you.